All right, hello everyone. Mr. Sunshine Locksmith Eddy coming back to you live. And what we have here is a 1939 Rolls-Royce Phantom ignition switch that needs a key. So what we're going to do is we're going to get started. We're going to take this thing apart and we're going to fit a key to it. Now, it takes a Ilco 62JB. This is one of the Rolls-Royce keys for the older models, for the 39s and 40s, early 50s. And you got to be careful. If you're going to try to impression this, you got to be very delicate because the key will bend and it'll just cut. It'll just tear itself if you go a little too pressured. But what we're going to do, since there's no key code on it, we're going to go ahead and start taking this apart, and we're going to see what we have here to get the switch out so we can fit a key and put it all back together. So what we have here, we're going to go ahead and take these nuts off here. We're going to get these loosened up, and we'll see what we can do as far as making a key. So Mr. Sunshine Locksmith Eddy, we've done several of these of the Silver Shadows and Silver Race. Oh, we just dropped the tool, so we'll get that. And what we will do, we're going to set this rag down first so that we can work with it a little. In case we lose any of the parts or anything falls out, we'll have an idea what we have there. So there, we just keep it like that. Final there. So let's proceed to continue removing what we need to do here to dismantle this Rolls-Royce. You can see there's a lot of electrical contacts and a lot of switches here inside this lock. So you have to be very, very careful when you're taking one of these apart that you get it back together properly. So we're going to go ahead and loosen these. These are the posts here. And what I would always recommend, you can see how one of this post here has longer threads than the other one. So what we're going to do here is as we go through this, we're actually going to be taking pictures so that we know how to dissect it, and if possible, if we have to refer back to it, we'll know what to do here. So we'll just go ahead and get that picture right there. There we go. And we'll continue our, you can see it stops. These, there's screws that must obviously, that would hold it into the housing of the Rolls-Royce dashboard. So we're going to go ahead and just get these screws, the nuts off of here as is. We're going to get these off gently. Make sure we don't lose anything. I'm going to put the nut there. There's a washer and a lock washer. It goes on each one. This one's, you got to remember, this is 1939 ignition, so it has been a while if this has ever been taken apart, ever since the day it was removed from the when it was built back in 1939 at the Rolls-Royce dealer factory in the UK, in England, I should say. So we'll go ahead and pull these off. And then we'll go ahead. These screws are all, these nuts are all the same, so there won't be any problem in putting those back on because they're running all off the same thread. You can see everything out of Rolls-Royce is machine screwed. Everything has a washer, a lock and washer. So we'll go ahead and pull those off. And this here is actually this switch right here. So, and this is in the off position. So we're going to make sure we keep that in the off position. So when we go to reassemble it, it's going to go on the same way. This cam is going to have to go back in. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and take a picture of that as it is. This is the number 2. This is the number 2 thing here, and that's the way we're going to put the cam back on there, as you can see. Now this cam, we're going to go ahead and loosen that. I already took a little bit of that off. You don't want to lose any of these. You can see it's got the lock washer on top. It's got the metal washer below it. pliers. Like that. There we go. And then we have the little fiber. That is actually a washer on there, so you're going to have to be gentle and take that off as well. Now you can see it's being held in by this, so we're actually going to have to remove this screw. I think merely we'll just loosen it. We don't want to have to take it off, so that we can go ahead and, yeah, we will have to take this off. I'm gonna just leave the whole thing like that. Go there. And then as you can see, we can just pull, looks like we can just pull the cam off. This is the cam. And we have it already labeled as to how it's going to go back down. See that? And then you can see this is, look at these. You have a lot of those little contacts there. They put those on so that it would make a better contact. And we have one more washer there. We will go ahead and take this brass washer off. This would be coming off just like that. As such, put it right over there. All right, so there it is. So now what we're ready to do, we have the 3 nuts off, so we should be able to just gently separate this electrical cap from the housing here. So let's go ahead and see what we can do to get that off. I don't see any of the screws holding it. Probably just held in with the compressed fit. Here's the piece here that it has to fall back into. So we'll just kind of get that, pry that out a little bit. There it comes. There you go. You see how it's separating now? Now we got to be very, very gentle so that we don't have this thing all fall apart on us, and then we'd have a big problem. All right, so we're going to make sure that's still in the off position. That's where we're going to keep that. And we'll just go ahead and gently pry this up. But we got to keep an eye out on the inside to make sure we don't have any problems with anything falling out, because that could be a major issue. All right, so these are going to stay put, and we're just going to gently lift it straight up like that. You can take a look that everything looks according to plan. This one's kind of being held up here on this one shaft. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and take another picture. All right, because it's only going to go back in one way, so we're going to go ahead, we're going to just leave this down as such. And now we can see the lock right here, and there is the lock right there. We'll go ahead and pull that lock out of there so that we can fit a key to that. And to do that, looks like we're going to take these 3 screws out. You can see everything is machine screwed on this vehicle, on this automobile. Oh boy, those are really in there. Those locks are really pressed in. They actually locked in the screws with a pin So we're going to have to get another screwdriver in order to get that out of there. There is a number on that, but that number does not coincide with any of the codes that we have. So let's go ahead and we're going to loosen those up. We're going to get those screws out of there, and then we can pull the lock out itself. Okay, so what we did was we got a bigger screwdriver, and we were able to go ahead and back these 3 screws out of here. So we have that out. There's one. There's 2. We'll get them out. Then we'll pull them out with the pliers. And number 3. That one loose. Okay. Go ahead and pull that out. There's one. I'm going to set that over here. We'll set that up here so we don't get it. Use our pliers here. There's 2. And there's 3. 1, 2, 3. And then we should be able to just pull this lock right out of there, as there it is. And there it is. There's the lock right there. All right, so now what we're going to be able to do is we're going to go ahead and take this apart. We're going to shim it, and we're going to make a key for it. That's what we're going to do with this right here. So give me a moment. We'll come right back. Okay, so we got a smaller screwdriver. We're going to go ahead. We're going to take these 2 off of the back of here. This is holding that cam, and the cam comes off just like that. It only goes on one way. And make sure we don't have anything there. There it is. Okay, so this is the lock. So what we're going to do now is we have to get a shim, and we're going to shim that lock open in order to be able to fit a key to that. So let's get ourselves a shim. Got to turn this over. Get a shim out of here. It's exciting, isn't it? We got a lot going on here, no question about that. We're going to need our little follower as well. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take a blank. We're going to go ahead, stick it in, and we're going to shim this lock the best we can. There's 1, 2, 3. And there it is. We got it turned. There it is. So let's go ahead and follow it right through. You have to be careful that we don't lose the pins fall out. We don't want that to happen. So there we go. There it is. There's our pins. As a matter of fact, there's our 4 pins. There it is, right there. So now what we got to do is we got to go over to the framing. We got to cut this down, fit the key, and we will be right back. Okay, we got it on the framing. We did it by sight, and there is your key right there. So now what we got to do is get this back in. Here's the top pins over here, so we're going to make sure we slide it off to the side as such. Pull the shim out, and let's see. Oh, there it is. We got it done. So now what we're going to do, gently, we're going to go ahead and screw this back on. You can see this cam. We're going to go ahead and screw this cam back on there. And the cam is what turns it. So what we'll do is we'll just kind of get this into position the best we can. We're going to get those screws started back in there and start putting it all back together. All right, so here's what we got. We have the code. The code is actually stamped, but we don't have the codes, not into HBC or generic code. So these codes are these older models. We don't have, they haven't been published. So the other than, and with having 6 depths and what is it, 15 thousandths increments to impressionists, you're probably gonna burn through a lot of blanks. But for what we're gonna do is we're just gonna go ahead and, like we did, took it apart, fit the key by hand, and now we'll put it back together. Let's take a look at what we have here once we get these screws on. There we go, we got the screws back on. And what you're looking at right here, this is it. The key goes in, it turns, there it is, it locks, it comes back around, it's in the unlocked position, key comes out, there is your key. That's it right there. So now let's go ahead and we're going to go ahead and start to reassemble. Now, as you can see, there's the 2 holes up here, there's the 1 hole down here. We will go ahead and set that ignition switch key lock back down into the housing. As such, it only fits in there one way. There it is. And we will go ahead and reassemble the screws, or put the screws back down in there. Everything is done with machine screws on Rolls-Royce. There is no sheet metal self-tappers or anything like that. Everything's done by machine. You can see that ball bearing over there holding that switch. We don't want to move that. Most definitely we don't want to move that, because then it will offset, it'll put everything out of time, and we want to make sure everything stays in time as we putting this back together. So we're gonna just gently get these screws started back in there. We have to hold it back because we don't want the one shaft to push out. So we're gonna keep it all together just like this, and then we're gonna go ahead and piece it right back together. There's 1, there's 2. We got the 3rd one right here. There we go. Being made in the car was actually built in 1937 or 39, I should say. So these may have been made even prior to that. They may have had these on the shelf, ready to build that vehicle to that serial number. And there it is. There's the serial number. I'm actually going to take another picture. That is actually coincides with what's stamped on the side, but without having the codes, you're going to have a hard time. You wouldn't be able to make a key for that anyway. There we go. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and put this right back the way it went. Now, it went like this. There is our cutout. Here is our cutout over here. So this would only have to go on one way, which is going to be on this way. So let's go ahead and gently get the rods back into the grooves, just like that. And we're going to push it right back down, just like that. The nuts will cramp it down. And we are back into position, just right there. There it is. Let's go ahead and we're going to go ahead and put some of the nuts and the washers back down on here. This way it will bring it down. You got to put the washer down first, then the lock washer, and then the nut. So we'll go ahead and get these 3 back on there. Look at that, everything machine screwed. What a way. Rolls-Royce didn't fool around. They wanted the best motor car. There it is. Look at that, right down. Let's go ahead, do the next one. Put that down there. Put that on there. Well, I did a video. A client brought me just a lock last week, and that lock was identical to what we just did right here. So that was out of an old ignition switch as well. What's wrong with this screw? For some reason, that one's not going down on there. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and put this one on here instead. Put it over here. That's going to go. Here's the screw for that. Just like that. Get that down there. No, that screw actually fits on the center. So we got to take this back off. This is actually the center's nut and the washer and the thing right here. So we're going to take this back off. There, take that back off. That's going to go on there. We're going to put the little one. That's why it didn't fit. There it is. Down on there, just like that. Okay, and we'll put the last one down on there as well. That's there. We have the little lock washer. That one on the center. Yeah, that goes over there. We're gonna put here it is. Here's the little lock washer. That's on, and then we're going to put this nut on. Just as such, this one's going to need tightened down using a little wrench. You could use a socket with a wrench, but I'm not going to pick up a socket right now. Take it right down. There we go. And then go ahead and tighten these down. As such. We'll go ahead and get these all down. Okay, so we got those 3 tightened down. Now we got to go ahead and put the cam back in there. And to put that in, we're going to go ahead and put this. This was the first piece that went down on there. That was the washer. And then we're going to go ahead and put the cam itself down on there. It went in just, we got to figure out how that went in there. That goes in there like that. There it is, just like that. All right, you can see that it was at the stop position up there. It is down on here. We're then going to go ahead and put the big washer. That was the one washer. Then the lock washer, and then the nut. There was the big nut that went on there, and that held it all together. So we'll go ahead and get that screwed down on there. just like that. Go ahead and get the wrench. We'll go ahead and tighten that down. You can see that brass contact. We'll go ahead and tighten that down just like that. Oop, let it go off to the off position. You don't want to move it while we tighten it down just like that. And then we had the last piece. This was the other contact that actually rode on top of there, which now we're going to go ahead and put back together as such. As such. And there we have it. We're all back together. Let's try it. We have it in the off position. We go ahead and switch everything on. That works fine. Off, on, off. Now let's do the key. This is the key. This is what it was right there. It looked like a 1 5 1 5. So that was the cuts on that. We put the key in. We turn the key all the way around, and now it won't work. There it is. It's locked up. It locks everything down. This is still operational, but without this moving to the on to allow the battery to complete the circuit, you can forget it. It's not going to do anything. So we're going to go ahead and put the key back in. We have to turn it all the way back around, and we're back up and running again. There it is, 1939 Rolls-Royce Phantom 3 key made for this ignition switch. So there we go. My client, you can watch this video on YouTube, also on Facebook, as things are taking place. Mr. Sunshine, Locksmith Eddy, Rolls-Royce key maker. We specialize in all classic and antique Rolls-Royces, all the way back to the very first one, all the way up to the classic Rolls-Royce. We handle the Silver Dawn, the Phantoms, the Silver Shadows, the Silver Clouds, Corniche convertibles, Wraiths, and any other vehicle in between. Silver Spur, Silver Wraith, etc., etc., etc. Hope you enjoyed it. Pick up that phone and call me now. Thank you for watching.